saw the message, Elena.
Some men buy Teslas when they hit 40. Others get trophy wives or take up CrossFit. Me, I buy frozen pizza on sale and pack my own lunch in a Superman lunchbox my daughter gave me 3 years ago. Guess which kind gets cheated on. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Daniel Brooks, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered my wife Elena was screwing her boss, lost every friend I thought I had, and then served up revenge so cold it could freeze hell over twice. It started on a Tuesday. Elena was working late again, the third time that week. She stood in our kitchen, checking her phone with that little smile she used to save for me. "Don't wait up, Danny," she said, not looking up from her screen. "Big presentation tomorrow. Paul wants the whole team to stay and prep." Paul Harris, Regional Director at Morrison & Associates, where Elena worked in HR. 41 years old, drove a silver Porsche, and had the kind of fake tan that screamed, "I peaked in college." I'd met him exactly once at Elena's Christmas party, where he'd gripped my hand too hard and called me sport, like I was his caddy. "Sure thing," I said, loading the dishwasher. "Maya's got that history project due Thursday. I'll help her with it." Elena finally looked up. "That's nice, honey." The words came out flat, like she was reading them off a teleprompter. Our daughter Maya wandered into the kitchen, backpack slung over her shoulder. At 14, she had Elena's dark hair but my skeptical green eyes. Smart kid. Too smart, maybe. "Mom, you're working late again?" Maya asked. "Just this week, sweetheart. Then things will calm down." Elena kissed Maya's forehead, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. "Love you both." The door closed with a soft click. Maya and I stood there in the sudden quiet. "Dad," Maya said carefully, "is everything okay with you and Mom?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When did she get so perceptive? "Why do you ask?" "She's been working late a lot, and you guys barely talk anymore, not like you used to." Out of the mouths of babes. "Everything's fine, kiddo. Just work stress. You know how it is?" Maya nodded, but I could tell she wasn't buying it. Neither was I. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Elena came home at 1:47 a.m. I watched the red numbers on the alarm clock tick by. She slipped into bed like a ghost, careful not to wake me. But I was already awake, had been for hours. The next morning, Elena was in the shower when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text message from Paul, work. "Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you." My stomach dropped through the floor. I sat there holding her phone, reading those 8 words over and over until they burned into my brain. Then I heard the shower turn off. I set the phone back exactly where it had been and pretended to be asleep. Elena got dressed quietly, kissed my forehead, the same way she'd kissed Maya's, and left for work. I called in sick that day. Spent 8 hours sitting in my home office, staring at my computer screen, trying to process what I'd seen. Part of me wanted to be wrong. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe Paul was just being inappropriate and Elena hadn't encouraged it. Then I remembered that little smile she'd had while texting the night before. By the time Maya got home from school, I'd made a decision. I was going to find out exactly what was going on. And if it was what I thought it was, well, Elena was about to learn that her boring, predictable husband had a few surprises left in him. "Dad?" Maya found me in the kitchen, staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. "You look terrible." "Thanks, kid. You really know how to make a guy feel better." She grinned. My grin, Elena always said. "Seriously, though, are you sick?" "Just a headache." "How was school?" "Boring. Jenny Morrison's parents are getting divorced." She was crying in the bathroom during lunch. Jenny Morrison. I knew the family vaguely, lived 3 streets over, went to the same grocery store. Nice people. Or so I'd thought. "That's rough," I said. "Divorce is hard on kids." Maya studied my face. "Yeah, it is." That evening, Elena came home at her normal time, 6:30 sharp. She seemed almost aggressively cheerful, chattering about her day while she made dinner. "Paul approved the new employee handbook revisions," she said, chopping vegetables with unnecessary vigor. "He said my work was exceptional, really went above and beyond." "I'll bet he did." "That's great, honey." I kept my voice neutral. "Maya, set the table." Dinner was a masterpiece of suburban theater. Elena asked Maya about school, Maya asked me about work, I asked Elena about her day. We were like actors who'd been playing the same roles for so long we could deliver our lines in our sleep. But I was watching Elena now. Really watching. The way she checked her phone every few minutes, the way she smiled when it buzzed, The way she'd developed a sudden interest in working out. She'd joined a gym 2 months ago, said she needed to get back in shape. For who? I'd wondered at the time. Now I knew. After Maya went upstairs to do homework, Elena and I settled into our usual evening routine. She curled up on the couch with her laptop, catching up on emails. I sat in my recliner, pretending to watch TV while actually watching her. She was texting someone. Not typing emails, texting. I could tell by the way her thumbs moved, the little pauses, the soft smile that played at the corners of her mouth. "Who are you texting?" I asked. Elena looked up, startled. "What? Oh, just Sandra. Girl talk, you know." Sandra Chen was Elena's work friend and partner in crime. They'd been tight since Elena started at Morrison and Associates 5 years ago. If anyone would know about Elena and Paul, it would be Sandra. "Tell her I said hi," I said. "Sure." Elena went back to her phone. I made my own mental note. Sandra was going down too. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I followed my wife to work. I felt like a creep, sitting in my Honda Civic in the Morrison and Associates parking lot, watching Elena walk into the building. But I needed to know. I needed to see. I didn't have to wait long. At 9:47 a.m., Paul Harris pulled into his reserved parking spot in his silver Porsche. He got out, straightened his tie, and walked toward the building. Nothing suspicious there. But then, just before he reached the door, he turned and looked up at the second floor. He smiled and gave a little wave. I followed his gaze. There, in a second-floor window, was Elena. She waved back. It was a small gesture, innocent even. But there was something about it, an intimacy, a familiarity, that hit me like a punch to the gut. I drove home and called my best friend Greg Martinez. "Danny boy," Greg's voice boomed through the phone. "What's up, man? Shouldn't you be fixing someone's computer right about now?" Greg and I had been friends since college. He ran a small electronics repair shop and had a talent for creative problem-solving that occasionally danced on the edge of legal. "Greg, I need a favor. A big one." Oh, this sounds serious. What's going on?" I told him everything. The late nights, the text message, the wave in the parking lot. Greg listened without interrupting, which was unusual for him. "Jesus, Danny," he said when I finished. "That sucks, man. I'm sorry. I need proof, Greg. Real proof. Not just suspicions and gut feelings." There was a long pause. "What kind of proof are we talking about here?" "The kind that holds up in divorce court." Another pause. "Danny, I have to ask. Are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes ignorance is bliss, you know?" "It's too late for that. I already know. I just need everyone else to know, too." Greg sighed. "All right. But we do this smart and legal. No breaking and entering, no phone hacking, no private investigator bullshit. We use what's available to us and we get creative. Deal?" "Deal." "Good. Come over tonight after Maya goes to bed. We've got some planning to do." That evening, I told Elena I was going to help Greg with a computer problem. She barely looked up from her phone. "Okay, honey, don't stay out too late." Right, because she cared so much about when I came home. Greg's shop was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a Chinese restaurant. The back room was part office, part electronics graveyard, part man cave. Greg was waiting with 2 beers and a yellow legal pad covered in his chicken scratch handwriting. "All right," he said, handing me a beer. "Let's talk strategy. First question, what's your end game here?" I thought about it. What did I want? Elena out of my life, obviously, but it was more than that. "I want them humiliated," I said. "Both of them. I want everyone they know to see exactly what kind of people they are." Greg nodded approvingly. "Now we're talking. Public shame is a beautiful thing when it's deserved. But we need to be smart about this. Elena's not just cheating, she's cheating with her boss. That's a whole other level of stupid." "How so?" "Think about it. She works in HR, right? She knows the company policies better than anyone. Sleeping with a supervisor is probably grounds for termination, especially if Paul's married." "He is. Wife named Patricia, 2 kids." "Perfect. So we're not just dealing with adultery here. We're dealing with workplace misconduct, violation of company policy, and potential sexual harassment issues. Elena's not just betraying you, Danny. She's putting her entire career at risk." I felt a cold smile spread across my face. "So what do we do?" Greg consulted his notes. "Phase 1 is intelligence gathering. We need evidence, photos, documentation, witnesses, but we do it all above board. No stalking, no breaking any laws." "How?" "Easy. Elena's active on social media, right? Facebook, Instagram, all that?" "Yeah, but she's not stupid enough to post pictures of herself with Paul." "Maybe not directly, but people are creatures of habit, Danny. They go to the same restaurants, the same hotels, the same coffee shops. And in this day and age, someone's always taking pictures. Greg pulled out his laptop and started typing. Let's start with Paul's social media, see what we can find. It didn't take long. Paul Harris was one of those guys who documented every meal, every workout, every business meeting on Instagram. His account was public. First mistake. Look at this, Greg said, pointing at the screen. Last Tuesday night, posted a picture of his dinner at Romano's downtown. Caption says, "Great business dinner with a colleague." Timestamp is 8:47 p.m. Romano's is pretty upscale for a business dinner, I said. Exactly, and look at this. Greg scrolled to another post. Same restaurant 2 weeks ago, same caption. This guy's got a routine. We spent the next hour going through Paul's posts. The pattern was clear. Every Tuesday for the past 6 weeks he'd posted from Romano's. Always the same caption about business dinners. I think we found their date night, Greg said. Now what? Now we get creative. Romano's is a small place, right? Intimate, the kind of place where people notice things. I was starting to see where this was going. You want me to show up there next Tuesday? Not just show up, make a reservation, bring a camera, act like a loving husband surprising his wife after her long day at work. The cold smile was back. I like it. But that's just the beginning, my friend. We're going to document everything, build a case, and then, when we have enough evidence, Greg's grin was positively evil. We're going to burn their whole world down. I raised my beer. To burning it all down. To burning it all down, Greg echoed. As I drove home that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. Elena thought she was so clever, sneaking around behind my back. She had no idea what was coming. Some men buy Teslas when their world falls apart. Me? I was about to buy my wife a one-way ticket to social ruin, and I was going to enjoy every minute of it. Tuesday couldn't come fast enough. I spent the weekend playing the perfect husband, making breakfast, helping Maya with her history project, even suggesting we all go to a movie together. Elena begged off, said she had work to catch up on. You work too hard, honey, I said, kissing her cheek. You should take some time for yourself. Maybe next weekend, she replied, but we both knew she was lying. Monday evening, I made my reservation at Romano's. Table for one, 8:30 p.m. When the hostess asked if I was celebrating anything special, I said I was surprising my wife. That's so sweet, she gushed. She's lucky to have you. If she only knew. Tuesday crawled by. I did my usual IT consulting work, fixed a server for a dental office, set up a network for a small accounting firm. But my mind was elsewhere. At 6 p.m., I kissed Elena goodbye and told her not to work too late. I'll try not to, she said, already reaching for her phone. I spent an hour with Maya, helping her with algebra. She was struggling with word problems, getting frustrated when the numbers didn't add up the way she expected. Sometimes things don't make sense at first, I told her. But if you look at all the information carefully, the answer becomes obvious. Is that what you do with computers? She asked. That's what I do with everything. At 8:15, I was sitting in my Honda across the street from Romano's, camera in hand. The restaurant was exactly what I'd expected. Dim lighting, white tablecloths, the kind of place where cheating spouses thought they were invisible. Paul's Porsche pulled up at 8:23. He handed the keys to the valet with the casual arrogance of a man who'd never faced real consequences for anything in his life. Elena's BMW arrived 6 minutes later. She'd changed clothes since leaving the house. Gone was the conservative blouse and slacks, replaced by a black dress I'd never seen before. She looked beautiful. She also looked guilty as hell. I waited until they were seated, corner table, backs to the window, then walked across the street. Good evening, the hostess said. Do you have a reservation? Brooks, table for one. She led me to a table with a perfect view of Elena and Paul. They were deep in conversation, leaning across the table like teenagers in love. Paul reached over and touched Elena's hand. She didn't pull away. I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu and took pictures with my phone, being careful to keep it casual. The lighting wasn't great, but it was good enough. Elena and Paul holding hands. Elena and Paul sharing dessert. Elena and Paul looking at each other like they were the only two people in the world. At 10:17, they got up to leave. Paul helped Elena with her coat, a gentleman to the end. They walked out together, and I watched through the window as Paul kissed her in the street. Not a friendly peck on the cheek. A real kiss, passionate and hungry. I paid my bill and followed them outside, staying far enough back to avoid detection. They walked to Paul's Porsche. He opened the passenger door for her, and they drove away together. I sat in my car for a long time. staring at the photos on my phone. 15 years of marriage, and it had come to this. My wife kissing another man in the street like I didn't exist. But instead of heartbreak, I felt something else. Clarity. Elena got home at 12:43 a.m. I pretended to be asleep, listening as she crept into the bathroom, brushed her teeth, and slipped into bed beside me. She smelled like Paul's cologne. The next morning, I uploaded the photos to my computer and called Greg. "How'd it go?" he asked. "Like shooting fish in a barrel. They're not even trying to hide it." "Good. Send me the photos. I'll clean them up, make them courtroom ready." "What's phase 2? Now we expand the investigation. Elena's got friends, right? People she confides in?" "Sandra Chen. They're thick as thieves." "Perfect. Social media deep dive time. If Elena's been bragging about her affair, Sandra probably knows all about it." I spent the next 3 days stalking Sandra's Facebook page. She was one of those people who posted everything. What she had for breakfast, what she thought about the weather, what she watched on Netflix. But buried in all that mundane detail were some interesting gems. A post from 3 weeks ago. "Some people have all the luck in love. Jealous of my girl E right now." Another from last month. "When your friend is glowing and won't tell you why, spill the tea, sister." And then the smoking gun from 2 days ago. "Dinner with my favorite rule breaker. Living vicariously through you, girl." The post was tagged at Romano's. The timestamp was 8:47 p.m., exactly when Elena and Paul were having their romantic dinner. "Greg," I said when I called him with the news, "she knows everything." "Beautiful. That gives us leverage. But we need more. We need to know how long this has been going on, whether other people at their office know, and most importantly, we need to find out if Paul's wife has any idea." "How do we do that?" "Leave that to me. I've got some ideas." 2 days later, Greg called me back. "Danny, you sitting down?" "Yeah, why?" "I did some digging into Paul Harris. Turns out this isn't his first rodeo." My stomach clenched. "What do you mean?" "I mean, he's done this before. 3 years ago, there was a sexual harassment complaint filed against him at his previous company. It was settled quietly, sealed records, but I've got a source who knows the details." "What happened?" "He was sleeping with a subordinate, married woman, just like Elena. When she tried to break it off, he threatened her job. She filed a complaint, but the company buried it, paid her off, transferred Paul to a different division. I felt sick. Elena has no idea what she's gotten herself into. Gets worse. Paul's wife, Patricia, she hired a private investigator 6 months ago. She knows he's cheating, she just doesn't know with who yet." "How do you know all this?" "I've got a buddy who works in insurance. He ran Paul's name through some databases, found some interesting patterns, multiple claims for vandalism on his car, restraining orders filed and dropped, that kind of thing. This guy makes enemies, Danny." I was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Elena wasn't just having an affair, she was having an affair with a predator, a man who'd done this before and would do it again. "Greg," I said finally, "I think it's time for phase 3. "What's phase 3? "We stop gathering intelligence and start using it." That weekend, Elena announced she was going to a work retreat in Chicago, leaving Friday evening, back Sunday night. "It's mandatory," she said, not meeting my eyes. "All the HR staff have to attend." "That's too bad," I said. "Maya's got her school play on Saturday. She was hoping you'd be there." "I'm sorry, baby," Elena said to Maya. "Mommy has to work, but Daddy will record it for me, okay?" Maya nodded, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. Another broken promise from Mom. After Elena left for her retreat, I called Morrison and Associates' main number. "Hi," I said when the receptionist answered. "I'm trying to reach my wife, Elena Brooks. She's at the HR retreat in Chicago this weekend, but I forgot which hotel they're staying at." "Oh, I'm sorry," the receptionist said. "There's no retreat this weekend. The HR department is all in the office tomorrow for the quarterly review meeting." "Are you sure? Elena definitely said she was going to Chicago." "Let me check with Sandra Chen. She's Elena's supervisor. Hold on." A few minutes later, Sandra came on the line. "Hi, Mr. Brooks. This is Sandra. I think there might be some confusion. Elena requested Friday and Monday off for personal time. She said she was spending a long weekend with family." "Family?" I repeated. "Right. My mistake. Thanks, Sandra." I hung up and immediately called Greg. They're not even pretending anymore. Elena told me she was going to a work retreat. Told her work she was visiting family. Want to bet she's actually shacked up in some hotel with Paul? "No bet. That's amateur hour lying right there. She's getting sloppy." "Good. Sloppy people make mistakes. And when Elena makes her next mistake, I'm going to be there to document it. Saturday morning, I drove Maya to her school for the play rehearsal. She was playing Emily in Our Town, the lead role. She'd been practicing her lines for weeks. "Dad," she said as we pulled into the parking lot, "is Mom really at a work thing?" I looked at my daughter in the rearview mirror. She was growing up too fast, seeing too much. "What makes you ask that?" "Jenny Morrison's mom works at the same company. She said there wasn't any retreat this weekend." Smart kid. Too smart. "Maya," I said carefully, "sometimes adults make choices that are hard to understand. Your mom and I, we're going through some things right now." "Are you getting divorced?" The question hit me like a slap. "Would that scare you?" Maya thought about it. "A little. But Jenny says it's not as bad as you think it's going to be, and maybe you and Mom would be happier." Out of the mouths of babes. "Let's focus on your play today, okay? We can talk about the other stuff later." "Okay, Dad. But just so you know, whatever happens, I want to live with you." I turned around to look at her. "Why?" "Because you're the one who shows up." That afternoon, I sat in the school auditorium and watched my daughter perform. She was brilliant, funny, heartbreaking, completely natural on stage. During the curtain call, I stood up and cheered, taking pictures and video with my phone. Elena should have been there. Our daughter was shining, and Elena was off somewhere with her boyfriend, lying to everyone who cared about her. But Elena's loss was my gain. Maya and I went out for ice cream after the play, and she told me all about the other kids in the drama club, her favorite teachers, her plans for high school. When was the last time Elena had really talked to Maya, really listened to her? That night, after Maya went to bed, I sat in my home office and made a list. Not a to-do list, a revenge list. Elena had betrayed me, lied to our daughter, and made a fool of me in front of our friends and neighbors. But she'd also given me everything I needed to destroy her. The photos from Romano's, Sandra's social media posts, the fake work retreat, Paul's history of harassment, Patricia Harris's private investigator. All the pieces were on the board. Now it was time to start playing the game. I opened my laptop and started typing. If Elena wanted to play house with Paul Harris, she was about to learn that every game has rules, and I was very good at games. Elena came home Sunday night glowing like a woman in love. She hugged Maya, asked about the play, and made all the right apologetic noises about missing it. "I'm so sorry, baby," she said, stroking Maya's hair. "Work has been crazy lately, but things are going to calm down soon, I promise." More lies. I was almost impressed by how easily they rolled off her tongue. "It's okay, Mom," Maya said. "Dad recorded the whole thing. Want to watch it?" "Of course. Let me just get changed first." Elena disappeared upstairs, and I heard the shower turn on. Washing off the weekend, I thought. Washing off Paul. While she was in the shower, her phone buzzed with a text message. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, another sign of how careless she was getting. The message was from Paul. "Missing you already. Tuesday can't come soon enough?" I took a screenshot and sent it to myself, then deleted the evidence from Elena's phone. Child's play. Monday morning, I made my first move. I called Morrison and Associates and asked to speak to the head of human resources. Elena was an HR manager, but she wasn't the top dog. That would be Margaret Winters, a woman I'd met briefly at company parties. Professional, no nonsense. The kind of person who took workplace policies very seriously. "Ms. Winters? This is Daniel Brooks, Elena Brooks's husband. I was wondering if I could schedule a meeting with you. It's regarding a sensitive workplace matter." "Of course, Mr. Brooks. Is everything all right?" "I'd rather discuss it in person, if that's possible. It involves potential policy violations that I think you should be aware of." There was a pause. "I see. Can you come in this afternoon, say 3 p.m.? "Perfect. Thank you." At 3 p.m. sharp, I was sitting in Margaret Winters' office with a manila folder full of evidence. Photos from Romano's, screenshots of Sandra's Facebook posts, documentation of Elena's fake work retreat. Margaret looked through everything carefully, her expression growing more serious with each page. "Mr. Brooks," she said finally, "these are very serious allegations. If what you're suggesting is true, both Elena and Mr. Harris could face disciplinary action up to and including termination." "I understand. I'm not here to cause trouble for anyone. I just think you should know what's going on." "Have you spoken to Elena about this?" "Not yet. I wanted to give the company a chance to handle it internally first." Margaret nodded approvingly. "That was the right choice. We take these matters very seriously. I'll need to conduct a formal investigation, which means I'll have to interview both Elena and Mr. Harris, as well as any potential witnesses. I understand. Mr. Brooks, I have to ask, what outcome are you hoping for here? I thought about it. What did I want? Elena fired, Paul destroyed, both of them humiliated in front of their colleagues? I want the truth to come out, I said. Whatever consequences follow from that, so be it. Margaret walked me to the door. We'll handle this discreetly and professionally. You have my word. Thank you. As I drove home, I felt a grim satisfaction. The investigation would take a few days, maybe a week. Elena had no idea what was coming. That evening, Elena was unusually chatty at dinner, talking about her day at work, asking Maya about school, being the perfect wife and mother. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed the act. How was your day, honey? She asked me. Quiet. Fixed a network issue for a law firm downtown. Nothing exciting. That's nice. She smiled at me across the table, and for just a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with her 15 years ago. Beautiful, charming, warm. All an act now. Tuesday morning, Elena left for work humming. She was looking forward to her date with Paul, no doubt. I almost felt sorry for her. At 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Elena. Danny? Her voice was shaking. Can you come pick me up? I'm at work, but something's happened. What kind of something? I can't talk about it over the phone. Please, just come get me. I found Elena waiting in the Morrison & Associates parking lot, looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her face was pale, her hands were shaking, and she kept looking back at the building like it might explode. What happened? I asked as she got in the car. They fired me. Her voice was barely a whisper. HR called me into a meeting this morning, and they fired me, Danny. They said I violated company policy. What policy? Elena started crying. They know about Paul. Someone told them about us. They had photos, Danny. Photos of us at dinner and... Oh, God, this is a nightmare. I handed her a tissue and tried to look sympathetic. Photos? Who would have photos? I don't know. They wouldn't tell me who reported it. Just said they had evidence of an inappropriate relationship between me and a supervisor. She wiped her eyes. Paul's been suspended pending investigation. They might fire him too. Elena, I said carefully, is it true? About you and Paul? She looked at me for a long moment, and I could see her weighing her options. Come clean and face the consequences, or keep lying and hope she could salvage something from the wreckage. She chose to keep lying. It's not what it looks like, she said. We're just friends. We have dinner sometimes to discuss work projects. Someone must have misinterpreted. Elena. I kept my voice gentle but firm. I saw the text message. Her face went white. What text message? Sunday night. Paul texted you. Missing you already. Tuesday can't come soon enough. That doesn't sound like a work relationship. Elena stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You went through my phone? You left it on the counter. It buzzed. I glanced at it. Old habit from when Maya was little and we were both checking for babysitter messages. It was a reasonable explanation, and Elena seemed to buy it. Her shoulders sagged in defeat. Danny, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But maybe we should wait until we get home. Maya doesn't need to hear this. The drive home was silent. Elena stared out the window, probably trying to figure out how to spin this disaster in her favor. I focused on driving and tried not to smile. At home, Elena went straight to our bedroom and closed the door. I could hear her on the phone, probably calling Paul or Sandra or both, doing damage control. I made myself a sandwich and ate it slowly, savoring both the food and the moment. Phase 1 was complete. Elena was fired, her affair was exposed, and her perfect little world was crumbling. But I was just getting started. That afternoon, Maya came home from school and found Elena crying on the couch. Mom, what's wrong? Elena wiped her eyes and tried to pull herself together. I lost my job today, sweetheart. But don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Maya looked at me questioningly. I nodded. Why did you lose your job? Maya asked. It's complicated, baby. Adult stuff, but we'll figure it out. Maya was smart enough not to push, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was connecting dots, just like her old man. That evening, after Maya went to bed, Elena and I finally had the conversation I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Danny, she said, sitting on the edge of our bed, we need to talk. I'm listening. I made a mistake, a huge mistake. Paul and we got involved and it was wrong. I know that, but it didn't mean anything. It was just, I don't know. A midlife crisis, maybe. How long? I asked. A few months, since the spring. Are you in love with him? Elena hesitated just long enough to give me my answer. No, it was just physical. Stupid and physical and meaningless. More lies. I'd seen the way she looked at Paul at Romano's. That wasn't meaningless physical attraction. That was a woman in love. What do you want to do now? I asked. I want to fix this. I want to fix us. Paul is out of my life. He has to be. We both lost our jobs over this. It's over, Danny. Completely over. And you think that's enough? You think you can just say it's over and we go back to normal? I know it won't be easy. I know you're hurt and angry, and you have every right to be. But we have 15 years together, Danny. We have Maya. That has to count for something. I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. She was beautiful, even with red eyes and tear-stained cheeks. She was the mother of my child, my partner for 15 years. Under different circumstances, I might have been tempted to forgive her. But I knew things she didn't know. I knew about Paul's history, about the harassment complaint, about his wife's private investigator. I knew Elena wasn't Paul's first victim, and she wouldn't be his last. More importantly, I knew she was still lying to me, still trying to minimize what she'd done, still trying to control the narrative. Elena, I said, I need some time to think. This is a lot to process. Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Okay, but in the meantime, I think you should stay in the guest room, just until we figure things out. Elena nodded, tears starting again. I understand. As she gathered her things and moved down the hall, I felt a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Elena thought losing her job was the worst thing that could happen to her. She had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, Elena was gone when I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to look for work. Back this afternoon. Love you. I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. Then I called Greg. Phase 1 complete, I reported. Elena's been fired, Paul's suspended. The company investigation is ongoing. Beautiful. How's Elena handling it? About as well as you'd expect. She's in full damage control mode, still lying about the extent of the affair, still trying to minimize everything. And you're still playing the understanding husband? For now. But Greg, I think it's time to expand the scope of this operation. What do you have in mind? Elena's got friends, people who've been covering for her, enabling her. They need to face some consequences, too. Starting with Sandra? Starting with Sandra. That afternoon, I drove to Sandra Chen's apartment complex. She lived in one of those trendy downtown lofts, all exposed brick and industrial fixtures. The kind of place that screamed, I'm young and hip and have disposable income. I waited in the parking garage until I saw her come home from work. Sandra was in her early 30s, petite and fashionable, the kind of woman who probably spent more on shoes than I spent on groceries. I intercepted her at the elevator. Sandra? I'm Daniel Brooks, Elena's husband. Recognition flashed across her face, followed quickly by guilt. Oh, hi, Mr. Brooks. Elena told me that she got fired? Yeah, I heard about that too. Interesting situation. The elevator arrived and we got on together. Sandra pressed the button for the 5th floor and avoided eye contact. Sandra, I said as we rode up, I think you and I should have a conversation. I don't really think that's appropriate. About your role in my wife's affair. Sandra's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. The elevator doors opened and I followed her down the hall to her apartment. She fumbled with her keys, clearly rattled. Sandra, I've seen your Facebook posts. Living vicariously through you, girl. Some people have all the luck in love. You knew exactly what Elena was doing, and you encouraged it. Look, Mr. Brooks, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. You were Elena's accomplice, her enabler, her partner in crime. And now that the whole thing has blown up, you're trying to pretend you were innocent. Sandra finally got her door open and turned to face me. What do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. Elena's facing those consequences now, Paul's facing them, and so are you. Me? I didn't do anything wrong. You helped a married woman cheat on her husband. You lied to cover for her. You celebrated her betrayal of her family. That's not nothing, Sandra. Sandra's tough facade was cracking. Look, I'm sorry about what happened to your marriage, but Elena's a grown woman. She made her own choices. With your encouragement and support. I was being a friend. No, you were being an enabler. There's a difference. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of one of her Facebook posts. This was posted the night Elena and Paul had dinner at Romano's. You were there with them, weren't you? Sandra's silence was answer enough. I thought so, which means you're not just an enabler, Sandra. You're a witness. And when Elena and I get divorced, and when Paul's wife finds out what happened, you're going to be called to testify about what you saw. You can't make me testify about anything. Maybe not. But I can make sure everyone knows what kind of person you are. Your friends, your family, your coworkers. I can make sure they all know that Sandra Chen is the kind of woman who helps married people cheat on their spouses. Sandra stared at me for a long moment. You're threatening me. I'm educating you about consequences. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Sandra, you might want to update your Facebook status. Let people know you're no longer in the business of helping home wreckers. It would be the right thing to do. I left Sandra standing in her doorway, looking like she'd been hit by a truck. One down, several more to go. That evening, Elena came home looking defeated. She'd spent the day job hunting with no success. Word traveled fast in her industry, and the circumstances of her firing were already common knowledge. How did it go? I asked, trying to sound supportive. Not great. Everyone knows what happened. I'm basically unemployable in HR right now. I'm sorry to hear that. Elena sat down heavily on the couch. Danny, I've been thinking. Maybe we should consider counseling. Marriage counseling, I mean, to work through this. That's an idea. There's a therapist downtown, Dr. Rebecca Martinez. She specializes in infidelity recovery. I could make an appointment. I almost laughed. Elena was still trying to control the situation, still trying to manage the outcome. She thought a few therapy sessions would fix everything, that she could charm her way back into my good graces. Let me think about it, I said. Of course, no pressure. That night, I lay in bed listening to Elena cry in the guest room. Part of me felt bad for her. She was facing the consequences of her actions, and those consequences were harsh. But then I remembered the way she'd kissed Paul in the street, the way she'd lied to Maya about the work retreat, the way she'd looked me in the eye and tried to minimize her betrayal. Elena had made her choices. Now she got to live with them. The next morning brought an interesting development. Margaret Winters called me at home. Mr. Brooks, I wanted to update you on our investigation. We've completed our interviews and reviewed all the evidence. And? Paul Harris has been terminated, effective immediately. We also discovered that this wasn't his first violation of company policy. There was a previous incident at his former employer that we weren't aware of when we hired him. What kind of incident? Sexual harassment. A pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates. If we had known about it, he never would have been hired. I felt a cold satisfaction. What about Elena? Her termination stands. However, given that she was technically the victim of workplace harassment by a supervisor, we're prepared to offer her a severance package. Nothing elaborate, but enough to help her transition to new employment. That's generous of you. We want to handle this as fairly as possible. Mr. Brooks, I have to ask, are you planning to take any legal action against the company? I haven't decided yet. I understand. If you do decide to pursue legal action, please have your attorney contact our legal department directly. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and thinking. Paul was finished, fired, blacklisted, facing potential legal action from his wife. Elena was unemployed and unemployable. Sandra was panicking. Phase 2 was complete. But I wasn't done yet. That afternoon I did something I'd never done before. I called Paul Harris directly. Paul, this is Daniel Brooks. There was a long pause. Jesus Christ, what do you want? I want to talk, man to man. I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a great idea. Meet me at Murphy's Bar on 5th Street. 1 hour. I'm not meeting you anywhere. Yes, you are, because if you don't, my next call is to your wife, Patricia, and I'll tell her everything I know about your little pattern of harassment. Everything, Paul. Another pause. You bastard. 1 hour. Murphy's Bar. Don't keep me waiting. Murphy's was the kind of dive bar where people went to drink alone and be left alone. Dark, quiet, and anonymous. Perfect for the conversation I had in mind. Paul was already there when I arrived, hunched over a whiskey at the far end of the bar. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, the haunted expression of a man whose world had collapsed. I ordered a beer and sat down next to him. You look terrible, Paul. Go to hell. Already there, thanks to you. How's Patricia handling the news? Paul's hand tightened around his glass. She doesn't know yet. Really? I'm surprised. I would have thought she'd figured it out by now, especially with that private investigator she hired. Paul's head snapped up. What private investigator? The one she hired 6 months ago to follow you around. Did you really think she didn't know you were cheating? Paul stared at me like I just told him the earth was flat. You're lying. Am I? Patricia Harris hired Blackstone Investigations in March. They've been documenting your activities ever since. Photos, video, financial records. She's building a divorce case, Paul. A really good one. Paul's face went ashen. How do you know that? I know lots of things. Like your history of harassment at your previous job. Like the settlement your old company paid to keep that woman quiet. Like the restraining order your neighbor filed against you last year. You've been investigating me. Thoroughly. You're not a good person, Paul. You're a predator who preys on married women and then discards them when they become inconvenient. Paul drained his whiskey and signaled for another. What do you want, Brooks? I want you to understand something. Elena isn't your first victim, but she's going to be your last, because I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. You can't prove anything. I don't have to prove anything. I just have to tell the truth. And the truth is that Paul Harris is a serial cheater, a workplace predator, and a man who destroys families for sport. Paul stood up abruptly. This conversation is over. Sit down, Paul. We're not finished. Yes, we are. He threw a 20 on the bar and headed for the door. I followed him outside. Paul! He turned around, and I could see the desperation in his eyes. This was a man on the edge, facing the complete destruction of his life. Stay away from Elena, I said. Stay away from my family. If I see you anywhere near them, if I hear you've contacted them, if you so much as drive down our street, I'll make sure Patricia gets copies of every photo, every text message, every piece of evidence I have about your affair. You already destroyed my career. What more do you want? I want you gone, Paul. Out of town, out of state, out of our lives, forever. Paul stared at me for a long moment, then got in his car and drove away without another word. I stood in the parking lot watching his taillights disappear, feeling a grim satisfaction. Paul Harris was finished, broken, destroyed, but I still wasn't done, because the person who had hurt me the most, who had betrayed me the deepest, was still sleeping in my guest room, still trying to find a way to make this all go away. Elena's reckoning was coming, and it was going to be spectacular. The next few days passed quietly. Elena continued job hunting with no success. Paul had apparently taken my advice and left town. His house was empty, his phone disconnected. Sandra had made her Facebook account private and stopped posting altogether, but I wasn't done, not by a long shot. On Friday evening, Elena approached me with what she clearly thought was a brilliant idea. Danny, I've been thinking, maybe we should have a dinner party, invite some friends over, show everyone that we're working through this together, present a united front. I looked at her with something approaching admiration. Even in the middle of a complete disaster, Elena was still trying to control the narrative, still trying to manage her image. What friends? I asked. You know, the usual crowd. Mike and Jennifer from down the street, the Thompsons, maybe some people from your work. Our social circle, the people we'd been friends with for years, who thought of us as the stable couple, the ones who had it all figured out. I don't think that's a good idea right now, Elena. Why not? We need to show people that we're okay, that our marriage is strong enough to survive this. Is it? Elena looked at me hopefully. I think it can be, if we both work at it. I studied my wife's face. She really believed she could charm her way out of this. She thought a dinner party and some marriage counseling would make everyone forget that she'd cheated on me with her boss, lied to our daughter, and gotten herself fired for workplace misconduct. Okay, I said. Let's have a dinner party. Elena's face lit up. Really? Really, this Saturday. Invite whoever you want. Oh, Danny, thank you. This is going to be wonderful. You'll see. I smiled. I'm sure it will be. Elena spent the next day calling friends, planning the menu, cleaning the house. She was in full hostess mode, the charming, vivacious woman everyone loved. It was almost like watching a performance. Saturday evening, our guests began arriving. Mike and Jennifer Patterson from 3 houses down. He was an accountant, she was a teacher. The Thompsons, Bob and Carol, who we'd known since Maya was little. My colleague Steve Chen and his wife Lisa. Elena was in her element, greeting everyone with hugs and smiles, playing the perfect hostess. She'd made her famous lasagna, opened our good wine, set the table with our wedding china. Elena, you look wonderful, Jennifer said. I heard you left your job. New opportunities? Something like that, Elena replied smoothly. Sometimes you have to take risks to grow, you know? I watched from across the room as Elena worked the crowd, spinning her unemployment into a positive life choice, making it sound like she'd left Morrison and Associates voluntarily to pursue new challenges. After dinner, as we sat around the living room with coffee and dessert, Bob Thompson raised his glass. "To Danny and Elena," he said. 15 years of marriage and still going strong. You two are an inspiration to the rest of us." Everyone raised their glasses. Elena beamed at me across the room. "Actually," I said, standing up, "since we're all here together, I have something I'd like to share." Elena's smile faltered slightly. "Danny?" "No, it's okay. These are our friends. They should know the truth." The room went quiet. Everyone was looking at me expectantly. "The truth is," I continued, "Elena didn't leave her job voluntarily. She was fired for having an affair with her supervisor." You could have heard a pin drop. Elena's face went white. "Danny, please." For the past 6 months, Elena has been sleeping with Paul Harris, her boss at Morrison and Associates. They were having dinner dates, weekend getaways, the whole thing. The company found out and fired them both. Jennifer Patterson's hand flew to her mouth. Bob Thompson looked like he'd been slapped. Steve Chen stared at his coffee cup like it held the secrets of the universe. "Elena's been lying to all of us," I continued. "To me, to Maya, to you. Last weekend, when she said she was at a work retreat, she was actually shacked up in some hotel with Paul." "Danny, stop," Elena whispered. "Why should I stop? These people deserve to know what kind of person they've been calling a friend. What kind of woman destroys her family for a cheap thrill with her married boss?" Elena started crying. "Please don't do this, not in front of everyone." "You should have thought about that before you started cheating." Mike Patterson cleared his throat. "Maybe we should go, give you two some privacy." "No, please stay," I said. I'm not done yet." I walked to the kitchen and returned with a manila folder, the same one I'd shown Margaret Winters. "I have photos," I announced, "of Elena and Paul at restaurants, holding hands, kissing in the street. I have screenshots of text messages, social media posts, all the evidence you could want." I started passing around the photos. Our friends looked at them with a mixture of shock and disgust. "This one's my favorite," I said, holding up a particularly damning shot of Elena and Paul kissing outside Romano's. "Look how happy they look, like they don't have a care in the world, like they're not destroying two families with their selfishness." "Danny, please stop," Carol Thompson said quietly. "This is enough." "Is it? Because I don't think Elena understands the full consequences of her actions yet." I turned to Elena, who was sobbing on the couch. "Tell them about Sandra, Elena. Tell them how your best friend helped you cheat, how she covered for you, lied for you, celebrated your affair." I can't do this." "Tell them how you lied to Maya, how you missed her school play because you were with Paul, how you put your affair ahead of your own daughter." Elena ran from the room. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the sound of our bedroom door slamming. Our friends sat in stunned silence. "Jesus, Danny," Mike Patterson said finally. "That was brutal." "She deserved it. Maybe. But did we deserve to see it?" I looked around the room at these people I'd known for years. They were all staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "You deserved to know the truth," I said. "Elena's been playing the victim, trying to make this look like a mutual breakdown of our marriage. But that's not what happened. What happened is that she chose to cheat, chose to lie, chose to destroy our family, and she's been counting on all of you to help her cover it up." One by one, our friends made their excuses and left. Jennifer Patterson gave me a hug at the door. "I'm sorry this happened to you," she said. "But Danny, that was really hard to watch." "I know, but it was necessary." After everyone left, I cleaned up the dishes and put away the wine. Elena eventually came back downstairs, red-eyed and exhausted. "How could you do that to me?" she asked. "In front of our friends?" "The same way you could cheat on me for 6 months, easily." "That was cruel, Danny. Unnecessarily cruel." "Was it? Or was it just honest?" Elena sank into a chair. "What do you want from me? I've apologized. I've ended things with Paul. I've been trying to make this right." "You've been trying to make this go away. There's a difference." "Fine. What do you want? You want me to grovel? You want me to beg? Tell me what you want and I'll do it." I looked at my wife, really looked at her. 15 years of marriage, and it had come to this. Her begging, me holding all the cards. "I want a divorce, Elena." She flinched like I'd hit her. "Danny, no, please. We can work through this." "No, we can't, because you're still lying to me. You're still trying to minimize what you did. You're still more concerned with your image than with the damage you've caused." "That's not true, isn't it? Tonight was supposed to be about showing our friends that we're okay, not about making amends or taking responsibility. Just about managing the narrative." Elena was crying again. "I love you, Danny. I made a mistake, but I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the security I represent, the life we built together. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you never would have cheated. Please don't do this. Think about Maya. Think about our family. I am thinking about Maya, which is why I'm filing for divorce on Monday. She deserves better than parents who lie to each other and live a sham marriage. Elena stared at me for a long moment. You've been planning this, all of it. The investigation, getting me fired, tonight. You've been planning to destroy me. I've been planning to expose you. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've systematically ruined my life. You ruined your own life, Elena. I just documented it. Elena stood up slowly. Fine. You want a divorce? You got it. But don't expect me to make this easy for you. I'll fight for custody of Maya. I'll fight for half of everything we own. I'll make this as difficult and expensive as possible. Good luck with that. You're unemployed, unemployable, and have a documented history of putting your affair ahead of your daughter's needs. Any judge is going to see right through you. Elena's face hardened. We'll see about that. She went upstairs and I heard her packing. 20 minutes later, she came back down with 2 suitcases. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while. My lawyer will be in touch. Tell Sarah I said hi. Elena paused at the door. You know what the funny thing is, Danny. I actually did love you. Maybe I still do. But you've turned into someone I don't recognize. Someone cold and calculating and cruel. I learned from the best. After Elena left, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in my living room, looking at the detritus of our dinner party. Dirty glasses, crumpled napkins, the photos scattered across the coffee table. It was over. 15 years of marriage. Finished. Elena was gone, our friends were horrified, and Maya was going to wake up tomorrow in a broken home. But for the first time in months, I felt at peace. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Maya, who was spending the night at a friend's house. Dad, Jenny's mom told her about tonight. Are you okay? I typed back, I'm fine, sweetheart. We'll talk when you get home tomorrow. Are you and Mom getting divorced? I stared at the question for a long time before answering. Yes, but that doesn't change anything between you and me. I love you. I love you too, Dad. See you tomorrow. I set the phone down and finished my wine. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and custody battles and all the messy details of dissolving a marriage. But tonight, I was content to sit in the quiet of my house and savor the victory. Elena had thought she was so clever, sneaking around behind my back, playing house with Paul Harris. She'd thought I was too boring, too predictable, too weak to fight back. She'd been wrong. Some men buy Teslas when their world falls apart. Others get revenge. Me? I got both justice and peace of mind, and that was worth more than any car.